Hey there, this is Jeff from Geoffmobile.com, and I'm back with a little discussion. I felt like doing a little bit of a video blog post tonight before retiring for the evening, and what I wanted to talk about is about branding. Because if you've been on the internet lately, you may have encountered a lot of people talking about social media, which is like Facebook and Twitter, blogs, YouTube, as a way to promote their personal brands or businesses. A lot of people have small businesses on the side, or they're promoting a band or music or art that they're doing, anything that can be considered kind of a business or a brand. And people are using social media to promote their brand. But what I wanted to talk for a few minutes about is what is really a brand? And why is it so important to think about brands these days? I find it's very hard to escape the idea that pretty much anything you can think of that's a business or even a person can be considered a brand. And that's kind of a scary thing because, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the only brands that we actually knew about were things like Coke and Pepsi and your politicians, which had kind of brands of their own, and all the brands that we knew of were generally controlled by larger corporations. Now, anyone can have a brand, and actually everyone does have a brand. As soon as you start putting stuff up on Facebook, on Twitter, you have an online identity, an online personality. At that point, I can say that you've actually established kind of a brand. As soon as you have a personal website, the way that you design your website, the name of your site, even your personal name can become a brand. And what does that really mean? Well, if you look at a brand like Coke and Pepsi, we think of a lot of things in our mind as soon as we think of the word Coke or McDonald's or any big brand like Nokia. We can first of all picture maybe the color that they use for their logo, the font, kind of the style that they go about their marketing. Are they showing pictures of cute animals on white backgrounds like an unnamed telecom provider that we have in Canada? Or are they, showing pictures of people smiling, drinking a beverage? Or what's kind of like the theme of the messages that they're putting across? And then you have to think about what does their band represent? Like, does a car manufacturer like Toyota represent a company that makes affordable, reliable vehicles that are very practical? Or are they a luxury brand? They're going for the high-end market where they probably sell a lot fewer cars, but they can sell them for a higher price. And there's also a certain amount of quality or wealth associated with a brand. Does a brand have a good reputation or not? So all these things are pretty basic, and I'm sure you understand them. If you're a consumer, you'll know how branding works, at least in a subconscious level. But the thing that's kind of interesting is now that the internet lets anyone have a brand, and it's so easy to have a small business, you have to be really aware of what your brand says about yourself. And sometimes because your personal life may be out there on the same time as your professional life, it's hard to find out how you can actually present a consistent brand when you might actually have several different identities that you have to the world. Like, you are a different person when you're at home with your family, then you're at work, or if you're at a club with your friends. So it gets kind of confusing, really. But I think the important thing to remember about branding is you have to be a genuine yourself, and you always have to be keeping it in mind what you're putting out there that represents you. So if you have a website or Facebook and you're always posting pictures of yourself drinking with friends, that might not look so well 10 years down the road when you want to become a politician. Or if you're trying to be a public figure, a blogger, if someone's going to dig up information about you, you want to make sure you haven't put up stuff that you're going to regret later. But what else can I really say about branding? Because we know everyone can be a brand, should we start thinking like we're all our own marketing department? Should we really be trying to apply sort of business strategies to our own lives? I think this gets a bit scary because then we're always thinking maybe the next person we'll meet is just a potential person or potential fan or of our brand, and they're going to click like for us on Facebook. Another thing I think we should really remember is that unlike corporations, people who have brands personal brands are actually people as well, and they're individuals who have personalities, souls, consciences, unlike businesses, which are kind of like a big hive mind, which don't really have necessarily a conscious or responsibility to be ethical. They kind of say they are, but what's really holding them to account? Like we've seen examples of, BP with their oil disaster, TEPCO in Japan with their nuclear disaster. These are examples of corporations which have great responsibility, but they're just made up of individuals who have their own private lives. As much as those individuals can try to, give those corporations a conscience, the only people who really are responsible for themselves are themselves, and for them, those are just jobs that they go to, and they can't be really entirely held responsible for everything the corporation does. So, I think when we're talking about brands that are owned by individuals, we have to be really remembering that these are actually people, and unlike corporations, they can be inconsistent. They can have many different dimensions and many different sides. So if you're talking about a brand that's owned by an individual, I think we have to be a bit more lenient in terms of how we regard that brand. And if they are different one day than the previous day, we shouldn't really be thinking that's a bad thing for the brand. So that's a short discussion about brands. I think in one point of view, it's very important as a business owner to get very familiar with brands. And if you ever think of yourself as being a brand, just think what you would do to best promote your brand and be a genuine brand. Because the thing that's the worst for a brand is if you come off looking arrogant or insincere about what you're saying. Okay, so that's a short discussion. I would love to talk more about this, but I think that's to get you started. Maybe just think about, maybe a good idea to look at the world as a set of brands, and then think, what would the world be like if everyone was just people and without brands? I don't know. Maybe it's not worthwhile thinking that. But anyway, that's all for now. Hope you have a great day. That's all from Geoffmobile. Once again, this video was filmed with my new Sony HX7V camera, which I highly recommend. Although you can get a very good camera for $100 that can do a similar job. The main thing is just to get out there, start establishing a brand, and be aware of brands that are large and small. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.
This is like the upbeat version of the